All right, hey, my name is Jeff. It's Big Hairy Dog. This is a webinar about V9 reporting. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or if you want to unmute and ask a question, I got no problem with that. If I'm not explaining something well enough, then that means if somebody doesn't understand it, maybe somebody else doesn't understand it, right? Hopefully everybody can hear me well enough. Hey, Lisa. All right, so all right, let's just dive right in. There's our agenda sort of on the screen, and we'll probably deviate a little bit. We always do, but let's start with the basic types. And there we go. So obviously, I just launched reports. I went into reports for version 9. My Delta is old. I probably should add that to the agenda. We should know what that means. Originally, there was 4 basic types. In version 8, there was journals, lists, merchandise, and summary. And those are still the key elements, shall we say, of version 9 reporting. So they added audits, and audit's an interesting area. I've made reports in here. I've used these reports. I don't have a great need of them, but I have used these reports, and they are pretty good. So but they're mostly about security permissions and who logged on when, and what's in their user account, that kind of stuff. So, you know, if you're ever interested in one of these and you want to dive deeper, let me know. We could set up a time. I could go in and we could play with these. Journals. We'll come back to custom here. Journals are transaction-based reports. That's the first and most important thing to know about journals. If you're looking at a journal, you're looking at a list of transactions. Whether they have items or not, you're looking at a list of transactions, right? So applicable uses, if I could talk today, of a journal would be like, I'm short on the cash register and I want to see every receipt that we made, right? So that would be a journal. Yeah, I want to see every receiving transaction from a given vendor for last month. That would be a journal, right? So, I mean, journal's kind of an exception report. You don't typically run a journal unless you have a problem you're trying to solve, right? If I want to see every customer who bought a specific item, and I track customers, I could run a sales journal filtering for that item, and it would show me every receipt that I sold that item, and I could see the customer's name. It depends on the journal, right? So, so a journal again is a transaction, a list of transactions. We probably should run a couple of quick journals so we get the sort of the idea of what's going on with journals. So I just will take a basic receipt journal, and I have some data in here, but it's really, really, really old. And so we will be pointing this backwards in time. So I'm going to go to like back in time to like one day, maybe, I don't know, 1,100 days ago. What do we get? I get a date in late 2022. Let's see what that works, right? Probably could go full screen here, right? We don't have to be looking at a tiny little window all the time. All right, now it's playing with me. All right, so in this situation here, the gray bar represents the transaction, and they've got a gray header at the top. Let's zoom in a little bit. Damn. All right, so the gray matches the gray, right? So the store, the receipt number, the receipt date and time, and they formatted it poorly. You can see part of the original time showing through right there. That's awkward. The tender type, etc. Then you've got the item level here, and so the item level will repeat for as many items as are on the receipt. In some cases, it's 2. In some cases, it's many or none. If it's an aborted transaction, right? So there's a very big transaction, right? And the receipt number is, or the data is too big to fit in the field, or what is that, a quantity? That's wacky. Somebody scanned something in there they shouldn't have or something. What is that? Yep, it's an old item number. Weird. All right. So they couldn't have scanned it, but you get the idea. That's a sales journal with item detail, and it's for that day. it's 59 pages, right? So let's close out of there and let's go back to receipt journals, but let's go down to this one here. So receipt journal, no detail, right? So we're going to run the same exact thing, right? So we're going to say dynamic date range, right? As opposed to typing in a date range, you can put a date range that looks at the current Windows day and figures out the date, right? So we're going to say one day, 1100 days ago, right? So back to September 8th of 2022, we're going to click OK. And it says, yeah, that's all this is daylight savings time, by the way. So anytime I update a report, if I change it, if I edit it for on your behalf and we drop in a new version of it, it's going to pop this message. But it's going to pop this message twice a year anyway, because the time changes and the file date timestamp doesn't. And so Oracle freaks out and says, hey, this report is older or newer than the existing report, right? So just FYI, it's nothing to panic over, but on the other hand, it's kind of annoying. All right, so let's zoom in a little bit on this because they screwed this one up a little bit too. 180 maybe. There we go. All right. So a minute ago it was 59 pages. Now it's 12 pages because here these are all transactions and without the items. But you can see the receipt total. You can still see what's going on, right? And it's the same thing with the formatting of the date there. They've got the time bleeding into the date, but it's been turned off, so it's all 12 noon. Then you got the real time sitting next to it, which is awkward. You also notice that some of these transactions don't have a receipt number in here. Those are high security aborted sales. They never finished. They never crossed the finish line. They didn't get a receipt number because they didn't make it to becoming a receipt, right? So on that point, real quickly, I'm not going to run it again, but I'll start to run it again just to point out that in reports for things like that, there are switches for that, right? So down here at the bottom of any journal, it's any sales journal anyway, you can say, look, I only want to see real receipts. Now, we don't use a return type transaction much, but it is technically a real receipt. But I don't want to see a high security aborted sale. I don't want to see a time clock entry, right? And below that, we've got the status field here. The status field would say, look, I only want to see a real receipt that was not voided after the fact or was a voiding transaction that voided another receipt, right? I just want to see real ones only. So if I were to run this now, and well, all right, so I guess it only takes a second, right? So we got the date in there. We got that new criteria in there. If we run this now, those zeros will drop out. There won't be any zero receipts because I filtered them out, if that makes sense, right? So now they're all real receipts. All the high security aborted sales are gone, and we went from 12 pages to 11 pages. All right, you know. All right, so I think we got journals. So moving on from journals, you got a list. List is, I always feel like it's the place they threw things they didn't know what else to do with, but it's mostly list. That is not a bad word. So if I want to see a list of my department codes, right? I've got that. I've got to see a list of my vendor codes. I could do that. If I want to see a list of cashiers or employees, if I want to see a list of customers, if I want to see a list of gift cards. So like here, gift card list, right? I could say run that. And if you have central gift cards, it's going to show you a list of central gift cards that are active right now, right? And what the balance on those are, right? So you can see here the starting balance and the ending balance, right? But that's tied to centrals, right? Still really powerful feature. All right, so lists are kind of like lists. I don't know what else to say about those, right? Some people do use the customer ones for marketing or exporting data out to a list. Merchandise reports. Oh, and I got a person asking a question. Tammy, do you have a question? So if you do, drop it in the chat or unmute your mic and feel free to, oh, could you export these reports to CSV? There it is. I see it now, Tammy. I'm a little slow sometimes with the controls on the meeting there. Yes, you can export everything out. Any report can be exported out, right? So yeah, if we were to run something simple like a vendor list, right? At the top here, you can just click export, then decide how you want to send it out, right? So I don't think you can take it right to CSV. You'd have to take it to Excel first, right? And then from there you could get to CSV without a problem, right? It's going to take about the same time it took to run the report to get to Excel. Of course, it opens on the other monitor, you know. Now, this is a terrible format for exporting. I think we all see that, right? I mean, I would not stack the fields. I would put them side by side and make one record for the export, right? So that's a terrible, you know, terrible example. But yes, anything can be exported out quite easily. Yeah, it might even be better for like a vendor field to just go to Resell Pro proper and actually just export it out of the screen itself, if you know what I mean. Of course, I've got something weird on my screen over there. Right. So everybody knows that if you're in Resell Pro, and we'll just stick with the same theme we were on, and you have a list of elements on your screen, you can right-click select, right-click export, right out of the screen, right? You can just drop it right into the Excel here, right? It's still exporting because there's a lot of data in here, right? So this might be easier if somebody wanted to get a list of vendors or departments or something like that. I'm going to cancel it. Don't save. Because in here you got screen controls, screen designs. You can change your screens. This is in a webinar about screen designs and stuff, but you can easily go in here and go to interface, page manager, and then anything above the line is in, everything below the line is out. So you could easily add elements or move them around and then export them, right? So, well, that's probably more than you were looking for an answer, right? But okay. All right, so back to the task at hand, right? So merchandise reports, generally speaking, are what I would call multi-data type report. So, here, this has got two sales ranges, not one. This year versus last year. Some of these are crazy, like on hand and sold and received and transfers and adjusted by store, right? Um, some of them are just on hand. There's just an on hand, but mostly a merchandise report is about multiple data types, is the way it's always been presented. And there are some here at the top there are multiple data type that this is a kind of a special report. This one here doesn't have any data type. You get to pick the data types for that report. It's probably one of the least used reports because nobody understands it. And it's got a weird flaw in it too that's annoying. Um, it defaults to the wrong price, right? So you really want to put that on whatever is your normal price level. I don't even know for this data, but I'm just going to put it right there. And so that still won't make it run, by the way. Down here, you have these things called data types. So you actually have to open these and give them a purpose, right? So I'd have to say, I want to see the on-hand quantity. And then I'd say, okay, and next to that, I want to see net sales, not sales or returns. I could do them, but I'm going to say net sales, and I want to call that sold in the column header, right? Then I could pick my data range for whatever I want to run that for. I'm not going to run this data set. It's way too big. Then I'd have to say what I'm doing. Like I got to say quantity and maybe extended price or whatever, right? I got to put some elements in that field, and I could keep going. I could keep going and pick receiving, or I could pick on order, or I could pick whatever data types are in the list. There's quite a few, right? Um, it presents kind of odd. It's a crosstab, which just means it has little square boxes and lines, but very powerful report if you want to throw together some data real quick. This one's horizontal. This one here is vertical. So this one will stack the answers, and this one will put them side by side. Depends on if you're exporting to Excel or not, right? Okay, so Andy, perfect. I've exported to Excel before, but it exports in a funny way. Far too many rows. Can you change the export setting to make it easier to manipulate or rearrange data? Yeah, yeah. Actually, oddly, I would say the first thing to consider on that would be, that's a terrible example. We don't want to do that. We want to let's do something simple here, right? Let's just go down and get um, a basic inventory report, right? That's going to be a simpler thing to do. And I'm going to say for now, let's just get rid of the zeros, right? And so there's two, when you click export, you're going to see export, you're going to see Excel and Excel as text. You probably want to go Excel as text. So if you do Excel, what it's going to do is it's going to try and actually give you like a PDF version in Excel. So it's going to be really, really, really pretty. And it's going to be rough. So, and of course, this is going to take way too long and I'm going to get annoyed with it, but all right. Maybe I should pick a vendor. But every report has graphics. It's got a blue bar across the top that's got the report title in it. It's got like a Retail Pro logo, or it's got in individual clients sometimes put their logo on reports as well, right? So if you export to Excel, it's going to take all that with it, right? So the graphs, the Retail Pro logo, everything's going to go, and it's going to be like it's going to join fields together, and it's going to be really hard to manipulate the data and get answers out of it in Excel. So the short answer is export as text only. So this would be in Excel, but just like you typed it in Excel, right? So all the weird stuff's going to go away, and it's going to be clean. And it's probably going to take way longer than we want here, so that's really annoying. But okay, so while that takes a minute here, and I may have to kill it. I don't know. We'll see. I'll give it a timer here. We'll start a timer and see how long it takes. Starting to work. Okay, so in the bottom right corner, you see the meter is running, right? So the little meter here in the bottom, it's not terribly exciting, but it tells me that the query is done and it's now exporting the data based on the Crystal report parameters, whatever, right? And let's see if it's started generating the Excel yet. There we go. Yeah. Right. So there's some weird things in this report I don't like, by the way, but that's all changed inside Crystal, right? But yeah, so this you see the format already is pretty much straight up Excel, right? I mean, it's not. That the right one? Anyway, yeah, the short answer is export it as text only, and you'll get a clean spreadsheet that's nice. Now, over here on the left, you see that like the sizes are all in there, but the information is being omitted. And if I was going to be exporting a report like this to Excel, I would want to go into Crystal and change that. That's like a non-repeat mode, or hide hide, don't show it if it's duplicated, right? So that can be turned off. So oh yeah, so yeah, that's brutal. This thing's just going and going. This has gone. That's started a new sheet now in Excel. There it is. So it's finally finished, right? Anyway, that was a little painful. I apologize for that, but let's close that and let's get out of there. And hopefully that answers your question about exporting to Excel. And of course, the smaller the data set, the faster the export, right? So, all right, excellent. I don't think there's a lot to say about summaries per se. I will say that summaries and journals are like one-trick ponies, whereas merchandise reports are not. They have multiple data sets, right? But a summary can only be a sales summary or a purchase order summary or an inventory summary or a receiving summary, right? It can't be receiving, and generally speaking, you'll never find a summary that does more than one data set. And there's a good naming convention. They did kind of screw it up once. This was really not bad, I guess, for 162 default reports or something. They screwed one up, but generally it's data type. So inventory versus purchase order versus sales versus receiving, right? followed by level of detail, sales for an associate, sales for a customer, sales for a department, sales for an item, right? So data type, level of detail, and then what they're doing with it, right? Typically, so top 50 or top 100, or well, they always give you some kind of note about what's supposed to do. By the way, the one they screwed up is a receiving report. You can see this one's right, receiving vendor, right? But this one down here, this one ain't right. It's backwards. It's summary receiving. They should have said receiving summary, merchandise summary, right? That would have been the right way to go. It's at the style level, not the item level, and it's all out of whack. It's out of order. But I have used it to make really good reports. It's a good place to start if you're writing reports yourself. So all right. So I've exported the cell before, but can't exports over from, yeah, 22 rows. Okay, yeah, yeah, yep, okay. You cannot save the export parameters. I mean, you just pick them on the fly as you go. I'm just reading some questions here. When you find a good time, how would I run a report that compares total sales by department, not by item? It's right there. So you mean total sales by department would be sales department summary, right? Right there. Just go and run that one. So if we run that, and let's just pick a day, let's do yeah, all right, we'll just do one day, 1,100 days ago, right? Might as well be consistent, right? Yep. So there's your departments, right? Now, this is a default report, and the default report takes um, each department code and shows you the sales, right? Um, and since we've kind of breached into this area anyway, we've covered the basic categories. The other things that are in the menu are other and custom. And custom, we sort of dumped our reports in the custom menu. And so if we were to go down here to sales in BHD sales, right? So DCS by store, DCS department by store. So DCS department percent sales. I don't know which one's the right one, but let's take a look. I see what this one does here, right? So we're trying to be consistent here. Does everybody know the difference between short date and long date? So short date is date, long date is date time. That's the only difference. So unless you're a casino and you change your day at 3 o'clock in the morning, you probably don't care. So you probably just use short date and call it good, right? Now I haven't been, but these reports I'm running here have the same parameters that we looked at on the journal to exclude high security aborted sales, right? So so you see this one here is one I wrote, and what I've done here is not only show you the departments, right? So each department here, right? Um, but then I've subtotaled the master department and given you all of accessories. Now, in addition to that, I gave you the percent of total or penetration. So in accessories, if you see this here, the whatever this is, this tote thing here, ACCTTE is 55% of accessories, and accessories is 34% of the total, right? This is just a BHD default core report that we install pretty much for everybody, right? So if that makes sense to you guys, right? So so and this is a little bit, I think, better presentation. Um, I need to know the grand total. I need to know what accessories as a total is, what whatever these are, footwear. Um, you know, it's nice to be able to see that higher layer. Anyway, so that's the BHD sales DCS slash department percent sales, right? So anyway, all right, and then the other folder um, is blank. The other folder is there, and it doesn't even show up unless you put something in it. Now I have a lot in it because I write reports for people, so you can see I've wrote a bunch of reports for these guys, wrote a bunch of reports for these guys. I've got a lot of reports in here from various customers. And I stage them in here and I export them and then I put them in their menu, right? So this menu for you guys probably has, 3, 4 reports in it, if you have anything in there at all, right? All right. Not seeing any more new questions, so I guess we'll continue on. And thank you guys. I will totally welcome questions. Everything that we can do to make this easier to understand for everybody, right, is the right move. So, all right. So, yeah, I think we beat that up pretty well. So changing reports, I guess that's one of the reasons we're here today, right? So, how do we change reports? Well, welcome to Crystal, right? So, um, any report we see here, and we'll keep this simple, right? So if I'm going to go in and click on a report, and I'm going to notice that the fourth line here, and I'll even do this here, right? I'll open up the screen designer and just click on it. That line right there says summary / RPTS 43 invent on hand sum .rpt, right? So we're going to close that. We don't really need that open. So, and that says that in the summary folder, there is a report that is an S43, right? So if we go take a look here in my D drive Retail Pro 9 reports folder, there is a summary folder and there is a S43, right? So if you're going to hack around with these, I strongly recommend you right click and copy them, right? And then put them where you think you're going to use them. Like we could dump this in the other folder and then probably rename it, right? So like I would put your initials on here, like we could just say BHD here, or we could do whatever we want. If you have an intention on how you're going to modify it, then I would add that too. So I would leave the S43. I would always want to know, I'd want to tell the next person like me, if I'm fixing this report, what the root source of the report was, right? I would want to know it started as an S43, right? But then I would add something to this, right? Now, just for an example here, this report is a default Retail Pro report. It's an S43. We've already established that, right? Let's scroll back up. Let's go back to custom here. Let's go down in custom to, I just passed it, some inventory reports, which should be in this neighborhood somewhere here, right? Receiving, oh, there we go, on hand. So if I click on one of these, notice that this is a BHD S43, inventory by department detail. So I'm telling you exactly how I do it. I leave the S43 in there, and then I say who it belongs to and what it's doing, right? Anyway, so back here now, we copied this, we pasted it, we renamed it, right? I'm going to double click it, and it's going to open in Crystal, right? And that should be it right there. So here we are in the land of Crystal reports. And there's a few things we want to go over. Obviously, how to copy a report and register it. Yes, we'll get to registration in a minute. So common things here. In here, well, let's start with the basics. On the right side, you got a Field Explorer. The Field Explorer is launched by this little dude right here, right? So if it's not showing, make sure in your toolbar you click on Field Explorer. The other one that's good to have is Report Explorer right next to it, but we don't really need that right now. I'm going to go back to the Field Explorer. In the Field Explorer on the right-hand side here, there's 3 areas that might interest you if you've got a Crystal license, and that is the database fields, the formulas, and the parameters. That's really what makes up this report. And there are some running totals and stuff. That's kind of more of an exception. So the database fields, what the hell's going on in there? We open that up, and there's every field that we can put in this report. So if a field is not here, that's a different thing, right? But if I need to see description 2 and description 2 is not here, and it is here, well then I just pull it over here and drop it in here, right? It's probably not the right place for it, right? But we'll get there in a minute, right? So so here's all your fields, right? And then below that, you have your formulas. So there are fields that don't exist in the database structure, right? So like for instance, this margin percent field, that's the margin for the grand total, right? Well, there's no field in here that says margin of grand total. Like you got to do the math, right? If I right click this and say edit formula, it shows a formula, and that looks terribly complicated. It's not. It's so not complicated. It's so easy, but it looks very. I would be scared by that, and I was when I first saw it. But we'll get there, right? So let's clean this up a little bit so we can see some of the things that go on with editing a report. I do not want UPC. I'm going to get rid of it. So I chucked that. Now, when I deleted the field, you see that it also deleted the header because they were tied together. Right. So when you pull a field in, like description 2, right? We can find it again and drop it into the detail band, right? The detail band is right here. It automatically pops or adds a header for you, right? And if you wanted to, and I would recommend right-clicking one of these and using the format painter to make the font be the same as the other headings. It's still not exactly the same. It's all caps, but all right, whatever, right? So here we can do the same thing. You can paint from data field to data field or from header to header, not from header to data field, right? Anyway, so if I click on description 2, I mean, this sort of out of order. If I have a description 2 in here, I'm going to want it next to description 1, right? So a really nice thing to know is if you click on a field and you hold the shift key, you can then click on a second field and add that field in. You can add as many as you want, actually. So notice that these two are not exactly aligned. So I'm going to right click here and say align these on the left. And then I'm going to right click again and say make them the same size. If fields are not aligned, dead on aligned, they will do weird things for you. So I'm going to make the mistake. I'm going to change the width of this one here. Okay, these are no longer the same size, right? So I'm going to move them now. You see how they're out of alignment? The bottom one is like racing ahead. So if they're exactly the same size, they will stay in alignment, right? So if we say right click here, I want these to be aligned left, and I want this to be the same size. And okay, let's try that again. See if we can actually hit the button this time. Same width. So they are the same size and alignment, and now they'll move together and stay perfect, right? So this is a control left and right arrow. So control left arrow, control right arrow, right? Moves one or more fields together, right? And if you do a shift right arrow, that makes them bigger, and a shift left arrow makes them smaller, and up and down do the same thing with height, right? So I could then do a control left arrow. I could then go in here and grab this and this and this and this here and say control right arrow, right? I got lucky on that one. Their distance changed a little bit, but they're okay, right? So I can move these around. Okay, now let's talk about previewing here. Man, this is such a big data set. You can preview. Actually, we don't need a preview yet. This is an on-hand report. So I was going to show you the date thing, but I'll get to that. So I don't really want these graphs. I don't know about you guys, but I don't have any great desire to keep these graphs. I'm going to just click on them and hit the delete key on the keyboard. And then I'm going to pull this up and clean that up, right? Now, let's take a look at this thing here called the grouping, the group expert. The grouping is the drill down. So this says how we're going to display them. Now, it doesn't really have any direction for the items, right? As far as I can see. So it's just that a subsidiary number is company number. Everybody's part of the same company. I'm going to go click on the ABC, and in here it just says the same thing. So what order is it going to display them in? Any order Oracle feels like. So probably the order that they are listed in the Oracle database, which is probably random based on how you type them into the database, right? So in this report here, I would want to give it some direction. You can give it direction one of two ways. You can give it direction here, like, so this field here will let me take and sort of add these in, right? And say, sort them. This is the sort order, right? By these fields, right? Of course, I'm looking for the attribute, and you can't make this window bigger. It's just really awkward. I don't know why it's like that. So there's the size, right? All right. Well, you get the idea, right? So we could do this here, and then we could click OK, and then they would be in that order. But you wouldn't be able to subtotal by anything, right? So what if I want to subtotal by like the department code, right? So I could then go in and say, I want to group it by the department code. And maybe by the class, maybe not, right? But I could say I want multiple groupings here. And then within that, I want the vendor, all of one vendor together. And within that, I want all of one size together, right? And maybe from there, I don't know if I care. Maybe I put all the colors together. And if I did any deeper, it would be by ALU. We don't even have ALU yet. Now that's going to introduce all these layers, right? Now, a lot of this that I just put in is just for this level 2 subtotal, which is right here, right? So what I would do is just suppress all this junk. I don't really want to see it, right? So if I suppress all these fields, except not this one here. I mean, I could suppress that one actually. It depends on what I'm doing. So the on-hand report, I believe, reports the company total. But if the store was involved here, I would move all of these elements down to this, and I would have this level here become my detail band, and I would group it together. So all the stores would be added together if I wanted to be at the company level. Okay, that's probably too much information. So we'll just stay on task here, right? All right, so most of us do not have multiple companies. So I'm going to suppress level 1 too. By the way, don't delete level 1. You'll get into some programming issues. They've got a lot of logic tied around the subsidiary. It's better to just suppress it, right? So then if I wanted to, I could say, look, I need a subtotal for the department code. So I'm going to just right click and insert. There's more than one way to do this, but if you right click and insert, you can insert to any level you want. So I could say insert to level 2, the quantity. You could say insert the price, the extended price to level 2, and pop that in there. And I could do the same thing for cost, everything, right? Now, what about the margin? I can't add up margins. If I got two items, one's 45 and one's 55, that doesn't mean the total is 100% margin, right? You can't add margins, right? That's not a thing. So how do I get the margin? If I want this margin to be here, how do I get that? Well, let's write one, right? Obviously, we would need to have this field here copied down, right? So if this department is the level that we're reporting on, we're going to need to add that to this level, right? But let's go write a formula. So I'm going to do it from scratch. I could copy one of these and modify it, but it's probably better to just do it from scratch, right? So we're going to say new, we're going to say margin percent department, right? Give it a name, click OK. Got a blank slate here, right? Now, up here at the top, we got database elements, we got the report elements that were given to us, and we got the fields we've added to the report thus far. Okay. Now, in here, if we open up the report thing, we've got different levels. There's our subsidiary level 1. There's our level 2 department code. Okay. So now, pretty sure margin is the margin amount divided by the price. But I don't have margin amount, but I think I could get it by taking price and subtracting cost, right? Just basic math. So this is going to look crazy hard, but it's actually crazy easy, right? So let's put a little bracket here and double click price. And then put a minus sign in there and then double click cost. And then close our little bracket. Okay, that's price minus cost. That looks like I just wrote something terribly difficult, doesn't it? But it's not. Okay, so now we're going to divide that by price. So I'm going to put another little bracket over here on the left. I'm going to click over here and say divide that, right? A little slash, and I'm going to double click price. And I'm going to close that bracket. And I'm going to click up here at the top, this X2, and say, does that have any mistakes? It says no errors. So I'm going to say, okay, well then if that's a margin percent, I've got to move the decimal 2 places and multiply it by 100, right? So that essentially does the math. Now, the only problem is if I gave something away and the price is 0, then I would be, in fact, possibly dividing by 0. And division by 0 is a huge no-no, right? You can't do that. So we're going to have to test for that. This also is going to look crazy, but I'll give you a trick for this too. So I'm going to say if, and I'm going to put a little bracket, and I'm going to say not is null. I never liked that phrase, by the way. I feel like it should be 2 words, but I'm not going to get hung up on that. It's a personal problem. So if not is null, and we close our things, and another set of brackets, right? The price is not equal to 0, then you can do the math below. And then if you have an if and a then, you have to have an else, right? So we just say else 0, right? So does that have any issues? Let's find out. No errors. Beautiful. Save and close. And let's drag that down. We now have a margin percent field for that there. Now, if I go to any one of these other ones, let's see if I do this here. Now this has got a little bit extra in it, right? But there it is. If not is null, right? This field here, and then that field's not equal to 0, then oh, so they're doing it backwards. They're using the reciprocal, but they've got the 1 minus the cost divided by the price, right? So they're doing a similar thing right here, but there's actually probably better examples. Yeah, so they've got some stuff going on here, but we could open another report and you'd see the exact same thing I typed in. I don't want to drag you through too much of the muck, if you know what I mean. But feel free to ask more questions. If I don't want to go down the rabbit hole too deep, but I also don't want to not go in deep enough, right? So all right, so okay, so we've talked about grouping. We've talked about we have not talked about ranking. We've talked about formulas, and you can do some amazing stuff with formulas. And it's all available in Google, and I could help you with it if anybody wants to actually use this stuff. Now, right now, we have both a header record. So see, these two are tied together, the header record and the footer record. You know, in that report that I ran with the departments, we were announcing the department with a black line, and then giving a subtotal in a gray line, right? We don't need that. We could just suppress this level and just have the subtotal pop in. And I probably would make this a little bit bigger. I'd make it break so your eyes would see the break better, right? But we're headed in the right direction, right? I don't know if I feel like let's hit save. And I guess I'll try it here. I'm really reluctant to do this. Now, when you click preview, by the way, the preview button is the first one. You don't want an HTML preview, you want a regular preview, right? So the first one, it pops up and asks you some questions. There are 3 possible questions you could get. One is the company, it's always one. And then whether you're allowed to see cost, that's always true. And then if the third one's in here, it's an employee ID. Now, I'm just gonna go down to the bottom here and just click OK. And if you don't put an answer into these, it will make you put an answer in them, right? So it'll find them for you. Then you put a 1 in there and click OK, and it will try to render a preview. Now, when you're connecting to the database, whether you're connecting from Crystal, whether you're connecting from PLSQL Developer, whether you're connecting from Power BI, whatever, right? You have to know how to connect to the database, right? And the database connection information is right over here. I'm just going to throw it up on the screen, right? So the user is always report user. The password is report, and the service or that you're connecting to is a TNS service, and it's a RPro ODS. There are 2 O's there, right? So here we've got RPro ODS in the top, right, for the service. We've got a report user in, and it's not cap sensitive, so we don't care how it's typed in. So we just have to add REPORT, right, and click finish or press enter, and it will go about previewing this report, which is going to be painful because they have a lot of items in inventory. So that's annoying. All right, so while that's going, let's see here. What can we do anything on here? No, we can't really do anything over here at all. It's really annoying. So I just popped open another report so we could continue while that goes, right? Um, the parameters are right here, and parameters are the filter fields, and you can, if you want to, change those around. You can right click and you can say set parameter order. Um, and you can change the order of these fields if you wanted to. You can drag them around, shall we say. Um, there are times when you have to do that. This isn't one of them. But otherwise, you really can't do a lot with the parameters themselves. Now, that being said, if I needed to filter in a really weird way, like if I wanted to say this sold quantity right here has to be not zero, which would make sense. This is a restock report. I would only want to show things that had a sold quantity. There is a special feature built into Crystal called a record select. So up on report here, I could say select expert record. And in here, I could then pick the field of my choice. And what are we on now? We're on DCS code. I really wanted to be on sold quantity. So I click on sold quantity, click OK. And it says, okay, is any value is equal to, is not equal to 0, right? Then I could click OK. If we go back and take a quick peek at that, select expert report, you can see it wrote the expression down here for me. I could go into edit mode and edit that myself and add additional information. It just would open up like that, and then we would just say and we would double click a field. So I could say, for instance, here I could say, there's my on-hand quantity, right? So I could say and, right? And I could say on-hand quantity is not equal to 0, right? So if I'm doing a restock, it has to have sold and it has to be more to get to put on the floor. Fair enough, right? So no errors, close, and see it adds it to the thing. You click OK, and now if we go back to that one, select expert record, you see it rearranges it sort of and creates two tabs. So here the sold's on top, here the on hands on top. There's an and connecting them both either way, right? Anyway, so that will mean you won't have to put that filter criteria in. Now, if you did that, if you hard coded that into the report, I would strongly recommend that you click up here and on this filter criteria and type in sold not equal to 0 and OH quantity not equal to 0, right? Like I typed that in backwards. Did I do that? Let's see. Yeah, I did. Yeah. But the point is, if you don't put a note on the report that you did this, how's anybody going to know, right? So this is where the normal filter criteria prints that you use at runtime. And this here is something I'm just hard coding into that, right? So, all right, anything going on in the background here? No, it's still going. That's painful. All right, so yeah, I was worried about that. All right, so, um, you know, we haven't talked about ranking. We could talk about that real quick. We talked about the record select, the formulas. Um, let's just talk about the ranking. Ranking is this thing right next to the sort. There's the sort. We played with that, but this one here is the ranking, right? So if I wanted to rank this by sold quantity or on hand quantity, I think that's what that is. But I could come up here to the ABC with the little group sort expert and see, since I was on sold quantity, it's already added sold quantity. And I could say over here, top N is a rank. So top N would say, the reason it's got an N is because you need to fill in the N when N is the top 10, top 100, top 1000. If you don't want it to be limited, then just put in like 9999, right? And if you limit it to 100, say, then Over here, you could say, I want to include the others as others, like a lump sum, or not, right? But that's all you do. To rank, you just pick the field and you do a top n or bottom n, right? Or top percentage. Nobody ever asks for those. Everybody always asks for top n. We probably wouldn't do that in a restock report. The point of this report is that you've got sold, you've got on hand, and you've got a description. You run this for what I sold like yesterday in the morning, i.e. tomorrow, and then I go pull the product, put it on the floor, right? All right, so all right, so real quick then, while that's going, and oh, it's already it's rendered. Nice. Right. So this is the preview mode and this is the design mode, right? Once you've got a preview up, you can hop back and forth, right? Now I see here that this field here is it's present here, but it's not showing here, right? So if we go back over to the other side and click on these fields, and we can do more than one if you want. Um, you can right click it and you can say format object. And in the formatting, you see right here, the suppressive duplicated, that's what's causing that issue. And then can grow is what causes it to take an extra line if it runs out of space. So if I don't mind them getting truncated, then I take that off and it makes the report shorter. Now, when you export, you get the whole field, whether you're seeing it or not, right? So you see these are not wrapping, but this one here is wrapping, right? So if I go back here and say format field, we go to common there and say, no, I don't, you can't grow. It'll just cut off. See that? And then I would tighten this up here to make it a cleaner, tighter report, right? And still got something that's wrapping in there. And of course, it's an enormous department with this data set. That's just really annoying. I was top to the end. Nice. Of course, there's 4,000 pages in this report, right? That was probably not a great choice either, right? I was underestimating. There's quite a few pages in this report. I was looking for that break, where the department code breaks, and I'm obviously not finding it. So let's move on. We'll come back to that when it finishes. I don't want to waste time on that waiting for it. Okay, so um, oh, it's still going. All right, fine. We'll just bring this over. So what I want to do next is I want to point to, not go deeply into, but what's going on in the background with these data fields right here, right? So when we say these are the data fields here, right? We see this thing SPM1, 12 sales, da da da. Anyway, if we click up here, database, and we say show database query, it'll show us what that is, right? So I'm going to press enter. It's going to get angry at me and ask me to put a subsidiary in, and then I'm going to put report in there, and it's going to show me that there is a stored procedure with that name right there, and inside that there's a actually this is the package name. Excuse me. It's a stored procedure. It's called a package, and that's the package name, and this is the actual procedure inside right there. So I'm going to minimize that, get our bullet over here, and oh, it finally found the last page. That's special. And of course, it's women's. So, no matter what we do, that's going to be enormous, right? So we're just not going to find one of those breaks in 40,000 pages. So we're not going to waste our time doing that. All right. So this is a PLSQL developer, and this is a summary procedure. And since we were playing with an S43, I right-clicked this thing and I said edit spec and body, right? Anyway, that's the S43 package right there, right? So they do a little song and dance about who wrote it and when. and then they go into the actual package, and we're not going to go deeply into this. But here's your parameters right here. Below that, you have what I would call a standard select statement. So they're selecting fields out of the database. These are terribly big, terribly obnoxious, and we don't really want to go deeply into this because that'll probably put everybody out. Like you'll be like drooling out the side of your mouth, and I wouldn't blame you. So, um, but I can modify these if we need to change them. I can add parameters. These are parameters, by the way, right here. Here's a trim statement that is defining the user-defined field 1, right? And setting up a package parser so we have a drop-down menu. But you don't care about that a lot, right? So in other words, let me rephrase this. If you wanted to add a field to a report that was not already present, I would have to go out here and modify and make a statement and add it to this stored procedure. And then I would give you the stored procedure and you'd be able to use it, right? So most of my clients don't write stored procedures. I have a few that play with it, but most of them just walk away from that and they just ask me if they need something and I go find it and or create it. Excuse me. So probably enough with that, right? So yeah, we looked at a statement example. We looked at so this is a package, right? This here is the package report summary. It's a default package from the developer. You can see we've renamed to different versions, but inside that package, there are many stored procedures, right? So a store summary, a department summary, a vendor summary, etc. We're not going to waste any more time in here. This will just kill everybody, right? All right, so and if there's any questions, again, feel free to ask them. I don't know if I'm. Oh, can you anytime it says DT, the list of reports means you get to choose the data type. Yes, DT. Well, that's a good question, Lisa. Thank you. If it says DT in the merchandise report, where Retail Pro wrote their little DT reports, yes, you can pick your data type. If it says DT and BHD reports, it just means that we're using multiple data types. So let me clarify that. These ones that say DT from BHD are multi-data type reports. This is one that has 12 different date ranges in it and trends, shows you a department trend across 12 different time periods. So this one here, if we click run on it, you're going to have a lot of data types you see to change the date here, right? But you cannot pick your own data types in that report specifically, right? So, but you are right with Retail Pros, and that's where we got it. We got it from Retail Pro, right? From their DT report, these two on top, you can pick your data types in these. Sorry, I missed that question earlier. But I'm trying to keep on top of both the questions and in both those screens. Okay, so excellent question. How do you register a package? And that's where we need to go anyway. We haven't done that yet. So, all right, let's go do that. Can you respond to Andy's question before you finish? Can you? Okay, what do we got here? We got show how to get a crystal report again. Yeah, a crystal report. Yeah, a crystal report. I mean, the easiest way to get a crystal report is to just go into the reports directory, right? I mean, so if I go out to D Retail Pro 9 reports and I click into any of these folders. So if I go into summary, I'm going to see all the summary reports. So an S2 is a store summary, an S4 is a department summary, an S6 I think is the vendor summary. Now an S8 is an item summary. And if I wanted to have, let's say I wanted to have a summary that I wanted to make that was department by vendor. Well, in the vendor summary, I only have vendors. They don't query data they're not going to use. In the department summary, I only got department information. So I'd have to drop to an item level to get both departments and vendors. And then I would just suppress that data back, right? I would choose to not report on it. So does that answer that question about how to get a report and how we could, like, if I go look at custom and we go look at S43, Let's open this one real quick. Okay, so here it is. Let's take a look at this and let's zoom in on it. Thank you. Okay, so in here, the first thing I would point out to you is that this field, this right here, this detail band is suppressed, right? So then let's go up to the top and let's look at the grouping. So I'm grouping it by store, then by department, master department, then the full department code. See that? So this last level here, full department code, level 1, 2, 3, 4, is going to become my detail band, right? And it is. So there's the level 4 band. The header's suppressed, but the bottom is not, right? So I've then summarized, inserted summaries to this level here and suppressed this level altogether, right? So this here it could be department by DCS or it could be department by vendor, right? That's just how you choose to group it. If that makes sense to everybody. All right. Now, hopefully, Andy, that answers your question. And thank you, Tammy, for slapping me around a bit. I always need it. How do you register a report? Okay, excellent question. So we have one sort of queued up that we can register, right? So we put a report in the other folder, right? This one right here. And I either saved it or we didn't. I'm not that worried about it. Now, if you're going to register a report, and we know that we copied an S43, and almost always, if we're going to build a report, we're going to copy it from one of these reports, right? We're probably not going to start from scratch unless I'm helping you. You're going to have to know the answer to all these lookup fields. So you're going to have to know the exact answer, otherwise the filter will not work. So the cheat here, as always in Retail Pro, is to right-click and select all, and right-click and export this to Notepad. So I'm going to say if you're about to register a report and you know the type, write down the answers, right? Then go to the menu you want to be in. Everybody screws this up. If you're in custom and you're really trying to be in other, you're going to be much smarter to put yourself in other. The reason is when you click register report, it puts the word other in there for you. I cannot tell you how many customers and how many times I too have registered it into the wrong folder, then I can't find the report. So I'm going to say training on hand report. And we're going to go back over here to Crystal for a second and just see what the status of that report is. Is that it? That is it. So up here at the top, you see I haven't saved it, but I am going to save it. And I'm going to do one more thing too. You see that we don't have any column headers here? They screwed that up. So the column header is right here. If we go to the section expert, lets you change colors and do tricks. And anyway, yeah, that's not it. If we go to colors and we click into this, that's not it. There's somewhere right here, there is a, I know, I think it is over here, common. Yeah, right here. Let's try that. Because now it's going to have to re-render it. Nice. Yeah, I think that's there's a problem in that formula that suppresses it all the time. Anyway, so we saved it. It's close enough. I'm just going to go back and register it, right? So, right. So then we say what the name will be, and then we just go ahead, grab that file. So we click the little button, it opens up, and we go into, in this case, the other folder. We find that report, right? And then we have to answer these. Now, see how it's jerking around with my mouse? If you float the mouse over the reports icon, it will speed that up and make it faster. The first one you put in, it's gonna want to keep that word none there. So just backspace it out and then type in the right answer, right? Most of these you can index. You can just type price. It says price levels. You're like, yes, that's it. If I type store, it says store codes. I say that's the right answer, right? That's a numeric range. I don't have to do anything with with an and or logic. I don't do anything. DCS, department, class, subclass, vendor code is slightly annoying. Skip, skip, skip. Okay, that if you don't have a cheat sheet and you don't know the answer to that, you won't know that. And of course, why is it going crazy on me? That's fine. I should have saved that, I guess, but that's an inventory field. So it's an inventory UDF3, right? And you wouldn't know that unless you had the cheat sheet, right? Skip, skip, skip. Subsidiary SUBS. Kit flag is pretty much verbatim. This one here is a really difficult one. If you don't know the answer to active, you will never find it because it is active. It's a status in Oracle. That one's the one that hurt me. These is a nice trick on these. So if we're on UDF5, right? I could type inventory, it would find inventory, right? What if I type something that's not indexed, that's not in the database? I just press X. It doesn't know what to do with that. It opens the menu and I just down arrow and take the next one. So you can do X, down arrow, enter, and you can just fill these in if you're registering a report like this. Again, this is only for lookups. And if you're in if you're using Retail Pro, if you're using Prism and you're using RPS V9 based reports, there's very few fields that have to be registered like this. I pretty much omitted all those when I wrote those reports. They don't really work in that translated database. All right, so there's all the lookups done, right? So then we click save. And if you missed one, it would tell you. If you don't, it goes like that and says, yes, you're good. And then it asks you if you want to do another one, and you usually say no. Then if you copy this report and you put it in there, you probably at this point want to add something to this report, like a filter. So then we would go to filtering down here in the bottom left, right? The bottom left corner. And that would let us make permanent edits to this filter, right? So now it usually starts on elements. You want to go to criteria. If you're on this screen, go to the criteria button in the top. But then you could go in and make certain edits if you wanted to this thing. Like I could say, this cannot be 0, right? And I could make that permanent. And I could add other things too if I wanted to. Departments, vendors, right? Then I would save that. Then if I click reports down here, it kind of kicks you out. And then you'd go back into other, and you'd see your report down here someplace in the T's, right? With a capital N in the word on. Nice. Anyway, does that answer that question? And are there any other questions that I'm missing? All right, I don't see any other questions so far. All right, thank you, Tammy. I'd love to have a training on 5.2 mm Prism in VinCSV. Oh yeah, the import tool. Yeah, the current one is 17, and that would be we did a training on that. We would do it on the current version. The import tool is a yeah, it's a very complicated bag of tricks. I would agree with you on that. So, okay, so and maybe we could do that. I'd say send that over to service. I'll even send him a note, see if we should do one. That's a pay tool though. You have to buy the tool. So people could join, but it might be nice if they wanted to preview how to use it, whether they wanted to buy it. So there might be a lot of good uses for that. So, all right. So the last thing on our agenda, because I know time is running short, is emailing reports, and this is a semi-complicated can of worms. So I think we got this down. I just wanted to show you that we're not doing anything in there today, but the scheduling and the running of a to email a report in a V9 report environment, right? So to do that, I'm going to go over and show you a few things here. We're not going to actually email one. It would be way too complicated for the time we have, but I can give you enough information to make you really dangerous. And I can tell you the first time you do this, you definitely want to do it with me or with another technician. And once it's set up and running, then adding another report to it's easy. You just want to get that first framework established, right? So anyway, T data, let's say, just go into here. Let's go into this folder right here. So the first thing you have to know about running a report is that there are things called command line parameters. And so if I go in here and find a report folder, report batch file. So BAT is a batch file. I'm going to right click it. I'm going to say edit notepad. And we're going to, this is one I've used for training before. Clearly, I'm going to have to make that bigger because damn, I can't even see that. Right, Control plus, I guess, right? Control plus sign. Here we go. All right, that's a little bit better. All right, so this here is a command line. So that I could drop that into like a run box, like a Windows run box, like that, right? A little box that lets you pop up and put a command in it, right? Cancel. And it says, go find this executable and using this password here, run this report right here. It is in the other folder. I wanted to export it to Excel as text to the folder C reports. And the template file is sitting in the other folder. That's what that says. So this, I will give you this. This is something we pass out pretty freely, right? Now, when you run it, if somebody was foolish enough to not close reports the night in the daytime, it will not run your report on the schedule. So we have to run a kill statement in the beginning of the batch file and kill reports, right? So we're going to kill reports first, just in case it's open, and then we fire the report off, right? Right. So these are the steps down here that I typed in for another person when I was training him. Identify the report, copy it, create your own version. Report must be able to run unattended. You must go and edit the filter to make permanent edits to the filter to run unattended. Then get a batch file like this one here, and then schedule it. So if this existed and I would have a place for these, I would put a folder in the reports folders, like next to the report folders, that I would put a place for my batch files. So what I mean by that is I would literally go into Retail Pro 9 and I would go into reports and I would create a folder called batches. And in there, I would have my report batches. So this one here, if we right click this and say, edit this here, that's a real one. Yep. Now we're doing a little bit more. All we're doing is here is that we're doing the kill statement. We're having a quick timeout for 1 second. We're writing a log file called weekly log, and we're making an entry in it to say we started the report. Then we're running the report. Then we're doing another 1 minute to 1 second delay, and then saying when the report finished, which is really helpful for troubleshooting down the road, right? So that's a pretty standard. But again, I have those. I could give those to you. And if I wanted to in that thing, I could, I'm just going to right click, go back in there real quick, edit notepad. I could take this batch file right here, this whole thing, right? I could copy that and I could just come down here and I could do, their spaces don't matter. And I could say, okay, and I also want to run another report of my choosing. And that this has to match the report title exactly as it appears in your menus, right, in reports. But so I could run 5 of those if I wanted to, right? Wouldn't matter, right? Anyway, so I'm going to close that, not save it. And then the next step would be to go into the Windows scheduler, and I'm going to do it on this screen and trying to get this thing out of my way a little bit. So you click down here into Windows and type schedule, right? And it says task scheduler, and you're like, yeah, that's the one. And then you open the library, and you hopefully have a Retail Pro folder already, and you'd right click and make a new task. And so again, this is all stuff I would do for you if we were on an appointment scheduling this first one, right? And you give it a name here, nightly reports or whatever, right? And then then this one is pretty easy. It's always the same. Run at the highest level of privileges, run whether you're logged in or not, right? Then you go to the next thing and say when it's going to run. So a new trigger, I want this to run at 6 a.m. in the morning. So it's going to run daily at 6 a.m. in the morning, right? And the report probably is filtered automatically for yesterday, if you see what I mean, right? And if for some reason reports locks up, stop the task if it runs longer than 30 minutes. A report's going to take 20 seconds, probably 30 seconds to run, right? That's overkill, but still it'll catch you if you have a problem, right? So then you say, okay, then you go to actions and say new action, and then you browse in and find that batch file, right? So we would go into, in my case, the D drive, the Retail Pro 9 folder, reports, batches, and then select that. Now, this thing starts in this folder here. So we don't need any command line parameters here because they're in the batch file, but we do need a start in folder, right? Then we click OK. And then the other thing we would do was we would go in and do another one of those, exactly the same for the other half. So if it writes the report to the folder of our choosing, then we have to have an email application that is going to email that, right? Now the email thing, and we have a minute or two before we turn into a pumpkin, right? Now, if we click OK, it's going to make me sign in with Windows credentials, and I don't really want this running on my computer, so I'm going to bail on that and close that back down. The email piece, though, just so you understand it, there's little email sets of email programs. So we're using Gmail, and Gmail is by far the most common. And that thing there, let's go back to my report folder here. Let's go back to here. Okay, and so this email or executable goes with this one right here. You follow? And two goes with two, and daily goes with daily, right? So there's a control file for each of these that says how it's supposed to run, right? And in that control file, you put what you want to put in the email, right? So you and who it's going to, and the subject line and the body, and then the directory where we want to pick those reports up from, any key phrase that the report file has to contain. The trick on that one is just put a 2 in there. They're date time stamped, and it's the year 2025. It's going to have a 2 in the date time stack for the next 975 years. I think we're safe on that, right? Then you'd put in the SMTP server and the password, and you would be able to email. Now, to do this with Gmail, you have to set up two-step verification and have an app password. So we got to go set the Gmail account up just right. We got to create this file. This file here must exist on the root of the C drive. So to make it easy and make it always work, we just said you got to put those down here on the C drive. So that if that thing's on the C drive and we double click that that email thing, it would email. Now there's nothing on my C drive. So when I double click this, you can't even see it over there, can you? No. Let's see if I can, man, sometimes you just can't get it to go, can you? Only when you got like an audience watching, right? Right, so that's what I'm getting on my other screen. I'm getting an error. The file's not found. Yeah, duh. And then it says executing the email batch at the bottom, and it's going to error out. It errors out as soon as I click OK on that thing, right? So, yeah, I mean, we have all the puzzle pieces figured out. We just got to set them up correctly, and then they work like a champ. You just then you can go and add other reports to your scheduled emails. Now we have in that folder we have a bunch of those, right? So if I go back to here and we go to back to this reports thing, right? I would point out that most clients want like a daily, a monthly, and a weekly. And sometimes they want an end of week or an end of day or an end of month. And sometimes they want a manager one, and sometimes they want a owners group or whatever. So we've got 8 of these things, right? So we can create 8 different target folders and push reports to 8 different places, and then set up 8 different email schedules. And then in addition to that, we could actually take those same things and put them on a second computer and have 8 more, right? Or we could go get the program that wrote these executables and create additional ones as needed. I've never had anybody run out of it. We don't usually use 8. By the time you get to weekly, monthly, and daily, and maybe managers, you get 4 of these running. You're crazy. You're doing wild stuff, right? So anyway, all right. So that gives you kind of a little lowdown on what's going on in reports, and emailing reports that it's possible. Um, I know this has been way too deep for most people. The basic report stuff is good, but the Crystal stuff, unless you're going to get a Crystal license, and they're not cheap, they're like $500-600. But if you use it off and on, if you use it once a month, it'd be worth it. If you use it once a year, just call me up and I'll make a report for you, because it's going to be cheaper for me to make it, because I'll make it in a tenth the time, right? So um, anyway, that's the Crystal side, and of course we're pushing up on the time, but I will briefly, for anybody who hasn't seen it, I will bring over here this, and this is the direction that reports is going in the future, right? So this is Crunch, and this is not really a Crunch. Um, yeah, whatever. A Crunch webinar, but that being said, um, these reports here, they use a similar concept, and that's all I wanted to show you, is that here the SQL is right there. Like, you can just go in and edit the SQL, and this report houses the SQL, as opposed to having to make a stored procedure in the background and all that rigmarole, right? Um, there's other ways to make reports. There's a simple mode in here too. You can use simple mode, advanced mode, or expert. I pretty much use expert. Um, I have a lot of queries. It's faster. You know what you're doing, right? So, um, and there's graphs and there's other stuff in here that we don't really want to spend any time on, right? But this is the direction that we're going in reports right now. And what we have done is let's see if I can even show you, for people as they move forward in the world of Retail Pro. Um, we wrote these reports here. So you see this BHD RPS. RPS is the Prism database. So all these reports here don't run on V9 data, they run on Prism data. So we can run reports in the V9 interface on the Prism data. The difference being that, as I mentioned earlier, the DCS, I don't have drop-down menus. I did not put the drop-down menus in. There's a good reason I could explain it, but I'm not sure you care enough for me to explain it. Now, that being said, you can type them in, or you could just go export your department code list, and you could just import the ones you want right into the import tool, right? And I can easily pull your department codes out to text. So anyway, now that I've bored everybody completely beyond all belief, and we're down to like 5 people left of the original 20 plus we had, hopefully this has been enlightening and helpful. And any last questions before I turn into a pumpkin? All right, so I guess I'm going to say thank you very much for tolerating me for, gosh, almost 90 minutes. Um, and hopefully you're not all asleep and drooling out the side of your mouth, and hopefully you'll have a good rest of the day, and maybe you can even use some of this stuff. It's great seeing you guys. I recognize so many of you out there, and I will talk to you soon, I'm sure. All right, see ya.